I'm here with Gladwin County Prosecuting Attorney Erin Miller, and we are just kind of talking about the bigger cases of 2011 and what's coming up in 2012. So what would you say were the biggest cases that you dealt with in 2011?
There was the Martin murder case down in Billings Township that it occurred the year before, but it actually wrapped up. He ended up pleading guilty, but mentally ill, and he was eventually sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. Another of the larger cases that went through was Richard Doobie. That was a criminal sexual conduct case. And that one I'm actually quite proud of, because he victimized a young lady from the time she was 6 until she was 12 years old. She just was not able to report it to anybody until she was 18. So there was a huge gap in time there, which significantly weakened the case. But we were able to get the jury to buy into our story of what happened, and which was the truth. Right? And he was eventually sentenced to 30 years in prison. The Save-A-Lot was broken into earlier this year, and that was significant because the people who did that were actually part of the statewide burglary ring. Right, and they were professionals. I mean, they carried weapons. They had video cameras that they hooked up to the front windows to see if anybody was approaching the store during the burglary. They cut the phone lines and then left, to make sure that there was no alarms that were going off, and then they came back again. These guys were very well organized and very well equipped. They both ended up pleading guilty, and they were both sent to prison for a lengthy period of time. The very interesting part about that is, even though it was a statewide case, Officer Dwayne Bean from the Gladwin City Police Department is the one who more or less broke it open. They were stopped in the city down south for a muffler violation, and was caught with much of the equipment, but the agency down there didn't follow up and do any search warrants. That's where Officer Bean did. And that's what really broke the case wide open. That's what made the difference. I mean, there was rock solid evidence leading to convictions in our case. Wow. Those are the high points. And then you have some big ones. Well, really one that I can think of coming up for next year. That's Whitty Hill. That was the murder that occurred up on Wagerville Road about a year ago, as a matter of fact. Right now, we're pending a mental health evaluation on her. We had her evaluated at one point. There is another one being done privately. I expect that to go to trial sometime in the spring. Gotcha.
One of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the cases that come through the prosecuting attorney's office are drug-related in some respect. What kind of drugs do you see as a problem here in Gladwin County?
Overwhelmingly so is the prescription drugs. It is just pervasive at this point. Just about every larceny that is committed in Gladwin County is usually prescription drug related to some extent or another. Just about every assault is related to either alcohol or prescription drugs to one extent or another. It's just a problem that's out there and needs to be dealt with.
Do you know how many deaths were caused by prescription drugs in the last year?
In 2008, there were 3 deaths that were solely attributed to prescription drug overdoses. In 2010, up till now in 2011, there were 9 people whose deaths were attributed to prescription drug overdoses. So it's really something that's growing. It's 300% increase in 3 years. That's outrageous. We're not even done with the year yet. It's something that needs to be dealt with, and we are. The police are out there enforcing those laws a lot more. Sheriff Shea and the state police lieutenant and I have been working with the medical community quite a bit since I was elected in 2009. And we're seeing a lot of progress there too. We've been meeting with the doctors as a group. We've been meeting with the pharmacists as a group. We've got yet another meeting scheduled in January with both of them together. And just to give you an example of the success, between 2009 and 2010, Gladwin had a 0% increase in the number of prescription pills that were prescribed, as compared to Clare County, which had a 24% increase in 1 year.
Wow, so it's made a difference to get together with these professionals and say, look, we have a problem here, and here's, let's talk about ways that we can all address it. And they've been receptive and cooperative.
Right, it's the doctors, the phrase that I've been pushing really hard is that I want the doctors to exhibit a healthy skepticism. Just because somebody comes in complaining of a bad back doesn't necessarily mean that they want the pain medication because they have a bad back. Sometimes it's because they're addicted and they need those
Another drug that I've seen a rise in occurrences with lately is the methamphetamine.
Yes.
In very recent months, we've seen several methamphetamine operations.
Back several years ago, methamphetamine was a budding problem, but the manufacturing method were so difficult that it kind of died down on its own. But through ingenuity, people have discovered a way to scale down that manufacturing process. It's become a lot easier. It's a lot easier to disguise, and it's blowing up again. Midland County has seen a huge increase, and the very southern part of Gladwin County it's bleeding in from there. We've had several people say, yeah, we bounce back and forth between Midland County and Gladwin County so that we don't raise any suspicions.
Sure.
And we've issued probably good 15 meth charges against people over the last couple months, whereas in the first couple of years of my office, we didn't see any. So that's going to be a huge problem in the future unless we deal with it harshly now.
Right. We've also seen some of these designer drugs. I know I saw a couple of cases with bath salts.
Yes.
That's concerning to me. Maybe it isn't as pervasive as something like methamphetamine or prescription drug abuse, but the dangers to the body.
Yeah, it's bad because the bath salt, the K2, the spices, those drugs are still evolving because they're chemically made. They're not naturally grown or anything like that. They're synthetics. The formulations evolve, so the legislature just can't pass a law and saying, hey, this string of chemicals all by itself is illegal because it gets changed a little bit, and that's not illegal, so the legislature has to keep up with it.
Right.
We have to develop test kits so that the cops out on the road are able to discover what exactly it is that they're dealing with.
Right.
We're playing catch up in that regard. There's a couple of stores here in town that are selling versions that are legal right now, but are soon going to be illegal. And I guess I'm not going to comment anymore about whether the store owners know one way or the other.
Sure. Another addition to the courthouse down there is the recovery court, which is really addresses the problems that some of these people who are involved in some of these crimes that are semi-drug related or alcohol related. They actually have options in terms of getting some help. Explain that to me.
I got to start out by giving Judge Farrell a lot of credit.
Right.
This has been his baby from the very beginning, but I'm a firm believer in its potential. The potential is huge. The statistics I've read that in counties in Michigan who have been doing this for a while, 70% of the people who have graduated from this recovery court program have not committed any crimes within 3 years. Now, it's a new enough concept where we don't know what the longer term is. But considering the only people who are being allowed into this court are those who are dependent upon drugs or alcohol, not just addicted, but dependent on drugs or alcohol. If they can make it for 3 years without reoffending, that's huge.
It is.
Okay, so if we can, for example, take a core 100 worst people in Gladwin County and eliminate 70% of those, that's huge.
It is.
A lot of potential. It's just now we just have to make sure that the execution's there.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today and giving our readers a look behind the scenes.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks.